Hello, I'm Shannon with Windblown Ideas, and I'm going to make a tiny shrub rose for my paper flower garden that I'm building. This one here is a 2-inch rose, and there's a few of them here. That SVG file is actually two different flowers in one, but it uses the same petals, and that's why I included it. This is the shrub rose that has the stamen in the middle and these sepals on the back. And this one is a 10-inch flower. And what we're making today is just 2 inches. And it also comes with the fluffy peony. And basically it's the same petals, but you don't have the stamen in the middle. It's just more fluffy layers. And I originally did not make it with the rounded petals on the bottom. I started with them just like this, but I have started making them this way for the fluffy peony part, and I really like it. You need to add a couple more layers so that it fills in, because you're kind of creating a gap with that. But I will go ahead and start making this flower here. It's a simple one. It's just 4 layers, the stamen and the center strip. And I think what I'll do first is glue this to a wire so that it will be ready to put the flower onto when I'm done with it. And I'm just using some 24 gauge paper wrapped wire for this because these are tiny flowers. They don't weigh much of anything. And I will use some round nose pliers and make a little loop at the end of it and bend it over. And then I'll put that inside the hole of this. First, I'm going to add a little bit of shape just by curling these up with a wooden stick. I get these in the kitchen department at Walmart. I think they're called corn sticks, and they're very handy for making my flowers. So now I will insert this in here and add just a tiny bit of glue to hold that wire in place. Hold that for a second and it should hold. I'm using Art Glitter Glue Dries Clear with the fine metal tip. That's what I use for most of my flowers. Okay, I think that is set enough, so I'll just plant it in the styrofoam here. And next I will shape the center so that that can dry for just a minute while we shape the leaves. And for this, I like to add a little bit of movement to it. So I just kind of roll the tips of them this way and that way, so they're not just standing straight up, because that usually doesn't look very natural. They need to be a little messy. Hi, Laura. This is my first live here, so I'm not using the camera I intended to use, but I'll get it all worked out. And I'm using a quilling tool. It has a slot in the end, and I just insert that in and roll it up. And I'll just put a little bit of glue at the very end of this. I'm thinking, I've been seeing a lot of floral arrangements with the magenta and fire orange, and they're so pretty. I think I might do a bouquet of these flowers using kind of these colors. I think they're so pretty. Whoops, almost knocked my little stamen over. Thank you. Let's see. So I just put a little dot of glue at the end of that, and I'll just set that aside while I shape these little petals here. And I better put the needle in my glue because it's a fine tip and it can dry out really fast, but it's very easy to unclog too. So with these, I haven't made these little guys in a long time. I think I will just lay the wooden dowel over it, and you can use a thin paintbrush handle or these wooden sticks and roll it up. And I'll do that on each petal. And then I'll just, oh, I probably better get it further up here. And then I will just roll down a really slight roll on the edges. And I like to do it at an angle. I don't go straight back. I just think it looks a little more natural. Let's see. This is working much better. The Instagram lives just were not, I was able to do them, but then the recordings had no sound. And I don't know why. So I think this will work better for me. And I'll do the same thing with this layer. Do kind of like a taco roll on each petal. And just a little slight roll at an angle at each edge. Okay. And then for these, I want them to come up more. So I do kind of like a ribbon curl where you put the stick on top, have a finger behind it, and with some pressure. And this, you have to be really careful. I have to kind of pinch the base of it with my fingernail because they're so tiny. It would be very easy to rip these guys right off of there. And that will happen sometimes, but usually, even if you do rip it off, it can easily be glued back into the flower without it being visible. So I'll do that with each of these, and then I'll add, these layers are what give you all of the fluff and movement inside the flowers. And on this one, I tend to roll one side down and the other side up. And you can add, you know, with the little bits that stick out, you can roll them any way you want. You just want there to be movement in the flower. And I have seen people use this flower for like marigolds. And when you do it in the orange, it definitely can look like a marigold. And this is the very top layer, and it's just got some wild bits to roll over and roll under, and however you want. Okay. And now I just do a little bit of cupping on these with a ball tool. So we just want it to draw up a bit. So just add a little pressure while swirling. And the middle ones, you want to come up more. These tiny ones, there just isn't much space for everything to go. So just apply pressure and they pop right up. Okay, so I'll set those aside and grab my little paper flower tool, and I'll put the bottom layer on first. And I really need to build some new ones. Glue starts to gather at the bottom. You notice it more with these really tiny flowers. So just add a little glue and the next layer. And need to make sure that where the glue meets the next layer, that they make contact. And it's kind of tricky with these little ones because if you push too much, they lose their shape. So you have to be careful to pull the petals up as you're pressing in the glue. Otherwise, they'll end up flat. And sometimes you want a flat flower. This is not the time I want a flat flower. So I'll add some more glue. And press it in. And you just want to make sure that you don't have one petal directly on top of another petal. It just doesn't look as good if they're stacked right on top of each other. And now this last layer. My hands are a little shaky this morning. Didn't get to eat all my oatmeal because I had to scramble to come up with something that would work. Okay. So that is how it goes together. I just want to let it sit for a second so that hopefully these layers will stay put. As long as you're careful, they usually do. I'll put it where there's a little bit of wax paper so that some glue doesn't seep through. I'll pull out some of these bits a little bit, but I could also just do that after the flour dries too, but I just want to make it a little fluffy. So I grab it with the tweezers and put a good bit of glue on the bottom and try to not smash all the shape out of it. And then I can just glue it on here. Normally when I am wiring a flower that has a rolled center, I glue the wire to the bottom of the center, but these are so tiny that it's not even necessary because they will just sit here and glue in place. And that little guy is done. I will try to get some pictures of him. I will plant him with these flowers and I'll show you. I'll maybe make a video of planting that with the rest of the flowers. But thank you for joining me this morning. I will be coming back with I think some bigger flowers. I think I might do something with these colors. And let me know if there's something in particular that you want to see. And thanks, and I'll see you next time.